Hi guys, I know it's been a little bit, but I wanted to make this video to discuss these increase in signing bonuses as a player's length of contract increases. What I want to do is it's very complex, and I wanted to look at objectively the numbers, not subjectively. When you say something is not fun, that is subjective. Some people believe this is fun. To increase the signing bonuses as the length of contract increases. So just to say, oh, don't do it, it's not fun, that doesn't fly. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you data objectively, just looking at the exact data given from NFL contracts. So let's look objectively into why we are going to do this next year. So, we all know that the AFFL, we have our own market. That means that salaries are decided by the supply and demand within the league. However, we have only 5 contracts that you can buy: a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, or a 5-year contract. In a previous video, I explained how these contract values, basically they have pros and cons. A 1-year contract, you pay a lot more up front, but you pay less at the back end. A 5-year contract, you pay a lot less up front, but you pay more on the back end. So because of that, there should be a nice middle ground around year 3. Those year 3 contracts should be basically the contract where the pros equal the cons. So because of this, like I said, we should have this normal distribution curve here. Obviously, you can see most of the contracts should be around the 3-year mark. That should be about the average. And the contracts then should decrease as you go to either the left or the right of it, or shorter contracts to the left, longer contracts to the right. So let's take a look at the actual NFL contract distributions. I went ahead and went to www.spottrack.com. I bought a premium membership. It was $30. I'm going to go ahead and just take that out of the AFFL funds, and I will put the password and login information up on our website, so anybody can go and look at that information. So basically the league bought it. So anyway, let's go ahead and take a look at how NFL contracts are distributed. This is kind of neat. I've never seen this before, so I actually think I'm doing groundbreaking research by doing this. Anyway, this is how the contracts break down. So I put all the NFL contracts into Excel, and I had it count all the numbers of the contracts that are in the NFL. The first thing that you probably see is that in the NFL there are contracts are up to 8 years in length. So basically, if you just count all the lengths of all the contracts, there are only 9 players in the NFL with an 8-year contract. So just by looking at these numbers, obviously we only have up to a 5-year contract in the AFFL, but as you can see in the NFL, anything beyond a 5-year contract really isn't all that popular. So then there's the average, and the average NFL contract is 3.38 years, and the median is 4 years. So even with their 8-year contract length, they're pretty much right on what I thought the AFFL should be. Now, if we graph these numbers, we can see clearly a pretty normal distribution. Obviously, you can see a 1-year contract is that bar there that's between 0 and 1, and a 2-year is the one that's between 1 and 2, and so forth. So this is a pretty darn normally distributed distribution of contract lengths in the NFL. Obviously, you can see there's kind of a smattering of 1-year contracts on the left there, and I think that's just, you factor in they have a 53-man roster with 11 offensive starters, 11 defensive starters, and even if you count in 11 special team starters, they still have a minimum of 20 backups on their teams. Obviously, they're not going to be signing these backups to long-year contracts, so I think that's why there's that superfluence of one-year contracts there in the NFL. So obviously, this is a very normalized distribution, right around the average, and I really believe this is why there's so much parity in the NFL, is because these players are turning over on the average of every 3.3 years. I think it's also important to note that there were 220 rookies drafted this year in the NFL, and they were all automatically given that 4-year contract. So I'm not quite sure how many rookies have made the team. Maybe it's only 200, maybe it's only 100. But even that big peak there that you see at the 4-year mark should actually be a little bit lower because of the influx of these 4-year contracts under the new rookie portion of the new collective bargaining agreement. I was actually really kind of surprised to see this distribution this way. I have never seen a statistical analysis of NFL contracts before, and it was kind of neat to see this graph, almost prove my point that there is pros and cons to each, the long-term contract and the short-term contract, and those pros and cons should be equal and opposite to each other. So it just makes sense that there should be an equilibrium in the middle there, and that's where most of the contracts should lie. I really believe that that's why there's so much parity in the NFL, is because these contracts are just constantly turning over every 3 years. So now let's take a look at the AFFL. I think these numbers are going to surprise you. What I've done is I've taken every contract length offered through our AFFL auction system since we've gone to this TCV, the new TCV system. It doesn't include rookie contracts, which are obviously 4-year contracts. It doesn't include any of the tags or anything like that. It's just, or any of the old existing contracts. I believe it's about 80 contracts or so of these players who have gone since we started the free agency through about week 1 of the NFL season. So let's just take a look at the raw numbers real quick. I guess the first thing that jumps out, obviously because it's in red, is that our median length is our maximum contract length. Obviously that should be near 3 if we're looking to have the same kind of parity that the NFL has. And even though our maximum contract length, 5 years, is 3 years less than the NFL's maximum length, our average contract length is almost 4 years. So obviously, just by looking at those numbers, you can tell that we in the AFFL under this system do not have the same kind of parity as the NFL. It gets even worse when you look at the actual distribution. I mean, in all honesty, this is just disgusting. Our contracts that have been offered so far are so far skewed to the 5-year contract that it's just a joke. There's no way the AFFL can have any parity when 61% of the contracts offered are 5-year deals. There's not even a semblance of any kind of distribution throughout the other contracts. Now, I still believe that there is an equal and opposite equilibrium here for these long and short-term contracts. However, it's apparent that the perceived value is not that way. I believe it's a league-wide perception that you're better off with the 5-year deal, or it's just blatant player hoarding. Now, I feel I've gone out of my way to explain how this new TCV system works. I've made a video saying you're not going to want to sign all your guys to 5-year deals because sooner or later when you sign Randy Moss to a 5-year deal and he retires in another 2 years, you're going to have to pay his SP or his signing bonus. Now, either there's still an ignorance to this system and how it works, or owners are just blatantly ignoring that advice and again trying to player hoard, or simply it isn't equal and opposite and we need to increase those percentages on the longer contracts. I guess I'm doing all this because I just absolutely believe in parity in this league. We've all been in leagues before where you're just out of the running and there's no way you're going to get back in. So why even care? Why even start a lineup? We've had owners in this league who've done that, and a lot of the times I'm the one who gets the backlash. I have to kick my friends out of this league and hear about it for years afterwards. It doesn't happen to anybody else. So I really believe in parity in this league, and I just want that. I believe in it. That's partially why I am so resistant to this radical realignment. There's an element in this league who wants to infuse parity in the league through radical realignment, where everyone's in a different division every year. Again, I don't believe in that. I want to keep these divisions mostly the same. I don't mind moving a team from one division to another conference every once in a while because of an owner change, but this radical parity through radical realignment just isn't the answer. What is the answer is parity through controlling your contract distributions. That way you have divisions who are weak, and then all of a sudden they become good, and they're good for a couple of years, and then the one division that was really good, they become weak for a while. So there should be this ebb and flow between the divisions, just like there is in the NFL. And I just believe that, I just believe that every year, every team, if you always stay in the same division, you have a 25% chance to win your division, which is money. I think if you radically realign every year, that percentage decreases. I also believe there's this inaccurate perception in the league that the 5-year contract is the best contract. I think owners are still in the mindset that you used to just bid on a guy and you'd win him for $8, and then that's what you spent on him this year. So there's this perception in the league that if you sign him for an L5 $850, that he's an $850 player. Well, no, he's a $60 player. You just gave him $60 over 5 years. So I'm trying to correct that perception. And a way to do that is it's been going on for hundreds of years, is the laws of supply and demand. If you're a store and you have 5 items to sell, and you're just constantly selling an item, and you're selling it, and you're selling it, and you're selling it, and you're selling it, and you're not selling your other items, and you can't necessarily lower the price of those other items, what do? You raise that price of that one item to keep everything moving off your shelves. So that's kind of what we're doing here. Is we're going to look at increasing these percentages of guaranteed money on these 5-year contracts, on the 4-year contracts, on the 3-year contracts to correct our distribution. Again, we have automatically owners will just throw up L51, 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 and that's $1 SP. And then we've already had 6 or 7 players, L51s, who've been cut already for $1 cap hit. Well, if you would have just threw them up for an L31, you would have only taken a 50-cent cap hit. So either owners just aren't thinking about the long-term effect of a 5-year deal, or that percentage just isn't enough, that 10% just isn't enough to make them think about it. So I am going to wrap this portion of the video up. I am going to make another one. There's also been some discussion about increasing the signing bonus percentage for the longer contracts. As I was correct in my initial hypothesis that there was a nice normal distribution of NFL contract lengths, I am also correct in the fact that there seems to be a correlation between an increase of signing bonus with the amount of years signed. So, once again, your trusty commish was damn near dead on with his proposal of the 30, 20, 10 type SP percentage for those 5, 4, and 3-year contracts. Anyway, that is another video that I will work on this week. I hope you enjoyed this one. I sure enjoyed proving myself right. Stay tuned.